Is this the end for Nick Kyrgios? Nick Kyrgios is out of the Australian Open after he lost in the first round against Jacob Finley. And yeah, he had some pretty much bombshell announcements in the press conference for some people, but for others, we kind of knew this announcement was coming. But we'll get straight into that in a bit. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And I'm going to try and post every day during the Australian Open, so keep your notifications on. But yeah, let's get straight into this. Is this the end for Nick Kyrgios? In his long-anticipated return, the home crowd faithful Nick Kyrgios played, thankfully, after 3 years of absence. He played against Jacob Finley, who has to be given a lot of credit for today's performance. He played a very, very mature game for the 23-year-old. But it was against a Nick Kyrgios who has been hit with huge injuries. You can see visibly Kyrgios was struggling with an abdominal issue, but not only that, you can see the level of tennis that he has not clearly played, and you can see that he was clearly 1 and 2 steps behind Jacob Finley, albeit who is not the top 20-50 player in the world. He is still an unbelievable player, and he is on unbelievable form. So this was kind of a nightmare matchup for Nick Kyrgios. If you watched the game a lot, Jacob Finley just played and kind of in essence cruised in this match. Kyrgios didn't cause many issues. He did have a set point in the third set, but Finley hit it with an ace and kind of shut down that door. In the presser after the match, as you can see the quote up here, he did say that this is probably his last time that he's going to play singles here, which is a pretty much, I don't know how you guys feel. It's a bit... Kyrgios is a very interesting human being and a very interesting character. On the one hand, he is very controversial and he can do stuff that makes people dislike him a lot, and that's completely understandable. But on the other hand, he does bring a massive audience of tennis fans that don't normally watch the game for him. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. In my opinion, I am going to be a bit sad to not watch him play singles again, but I think the main reason that he can't play singles is that he knows deep down that he can't compete at an elite level. Getting knocked out in the first round is not obviously ideal, but I don't know what people and Kyrgios fans expected after him having such a long layoff, and an injury on the wrist is always very problematic. You have to look at players like Juan Martín del Potro, how difficult it was for them to try and come back after a wrist injury, but not only that, picking up an abdominal injury, which can be very uncomfortable. But he gutted himself, played that round, and obviously bowed out in the first round. But I know the crowd, the Aussies, were fully behind him, and it was really good to see that, for the final time, see that Kyrgios, the Maverick, come out on him just one more time in Australia. I think if this was any other Grand Slam, he would have bowed out and he would have retired from that match. But because it was the Australians, his home crowd, they were getting fully behind him. You can even see in the first set, he was visibly uncomfortable with his abdominal, but he gutted it, he got through it, and fair play to him, because a lot of players in that situation would have bowed out. But Nick Kyrgios put it to the end because he couldn't just say no. Obviously, as I said, he said in this press conference that this is going to be the last time he's playing singles, but what that does mean to us that he is probably going to come back here again, but not in the singles capacity, probably a doubles capacity, which is obviously going to be unbelievable to watch, because we had the chance to watch him and Djokovic play a few weeks back in Brisbane, and it was pretty entertaining to say the least. But there is a big issue within Kyrgios at the moment, and I mentioned it and I touched upon it. His wrist is a big issue. When he came back and played in Brisbane, his wrist started to swell up a bit, and I think that could be problematic, and that could decide whether he completely retires from the game of tennis or whether it's just singles. It's going to be very difficult for him to let go of the game that he's been playing for pretty much the whole of his life, and obviously the last 3 years have been pretty tough for him, not being able to play after making that Wimbledon final. And just when he feels like the wheels are starting to come forward in his career, he just gets hit with a nasty wrist injury, which even his doctor doubted he was possible to return for. So against all doubts, he had to play, and he did play this year. And that is a huge congratulations to Nick Kyrgios. But ultimately, this is probably the last time we've seen him play singles at the Australian Open. And as he said, this is probably the last time. Will he play in the French Open, Wimbledon, US Open? Because that's the end of the season in singles. I highly doubt it. Even after today, you can see his level is just way off. But you never know with him. He's just a unique character which can decide on the day that he wants to play. And I guess for tennis, we maybe want to see it one more time. Maybe on court number 1 against Tsitsipas, if you know that reference. But we never know. But for Nick Kyrgios, it is probably the end of the road. And what a road it's been for him. He's been a maverick, he's been a character, and yeah, he's not one to give up. And today pretty much epitomized his career in that. that match, you can just pretty much, if you saw that match, that was like Nick Kyrgios' career. Injuries have tapered it. But he fought right until the end, and obviously he had a few underarm shots, underarm serves, behind the back shots, but ultimately he fell a bit short. But congratulations to Jacob Finley, who played an unbelievable game. I had the pleasure of watching him last year at Wimbledon against Djokovic. He took a set off him, and he was really, really promising. So he may be having a small run in the Australian Open. But for Nick Kyrgios, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time, man. Maybe it's time. Let me know your thoughts about him. I know a lot of people aren't his biggest fans, but obviously it's never nice to see a player bow out like this. But I guess I know a lot of you maybe in the comments will say this is wonderful to see. But let me see what you think. But in general, I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another video. And peace.